Duck Talks is part of Res TV's network of podcasts. Check out res.tv for other great podcasts.
Hey, what's happening, you goofs? This is Jason Marsden, voice of Max Goof, and you're listening to Duck Talks.
It's the week of Wednesday, August the 26th, and you're listening to episode 109 of Duck Talks. We are extremely excited for this podcast episode. It's one that we've been waiting on for a few weeks now. It's something we've been anxiously waiting on. We've got a few things to talk about before we have a special guest on the podcast, which we are, of course, going to put in the thumbnail for this podcast episode, and his name's going to be listed as a guest. So we might as well go ahead and say that we're going to have Jason Marsden on this episode of Duck Talks. I am one of your hosts. My name's Mitch. Joining me, I have my pal, Pirate Steven.
Ahoy there. I can tell you for sure this episode is going to stand out and be an awesome episode. Because we got the Goof Kid.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite Disney movies. I know it's considered an underrated Disney movie and all that now, but I feel like I've loved this movie for a very long time. And so getting to speak with Jason is going to be a highlight of doing this podcast. I have had the pleasure of speaking with him once before at Dragon Con, but unfortunately I did not have access to do interviews at that convention, so I wasn't able to officially talk with him. But we spoke about him coming on the podcast and about how much we enjoyed a Goofy movie and wanted to talk about that. And just glad we've been able to reconnect and that he's going to be on tonight. He's going to be calling in here in a little bit, so we wanted to record an intro, of course, and then also talk a little bit about some news that came out. For anyone who is maybe listening to this podcast for the first time because you saw Jason was going to be on, we are a DuckTales and Disney Afternooniverse fan podcast, and we talk about all things related to the Disney Afternoon on our podcast, and that's going to include a Goofy movie, which was inspired by Goof Troop, which was part of the Disney Afternoon. So there's our connection. We are super thankful that you're listening and that you're checking us out. We hope you will consider listening to our past episodes and maybe some future episodes. If you enjoy the show, it'd be great if you were to give us a review or a rating on your favorite podcatcher. That helps others find the show. And of course, for all of you who've been listening for over 100 episodes, or less, even if you've only been listening for like 60 or 30, thank you for continuing to check us out and to be here and to be part of the conversation. We enjoy talking about these shows and soundtracks and toys, video games, all that good stuff with you all online, and we're just thankful to be part of the community. This week, there was some news for DuckTales that came out. Actually, I guess this was last week, but it has been since our last podcast recording that it came out. The highlights came out, which did prove that the episode, that the 2 episodes were going to air in September. Immediately after that, we got all of the episode titles released in an image, and now we have episode descriptions for the first 2 episodes in September. And we were just going to briefly look at these. The first episode for the return of season 3 of DuckTales is The Phantom and the Sorceress. It is going to air on Monday, September, I don't have the date on here, but it's the 21st, and it's going to start at 7 o'clock. The description says, when a mysterious magic thief arrives in Duckburg, Lena must confront her past and team with her treacherous aunt, Magica. So this is an episode that we've been looking forward to ever since we heard about, because we're going to get the return of both Lena and Magica. There was also a few other things that were exciting because we got an image that included Gladstone Gander. And we learned also from this description that Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad and The Mandalorian will be voicing the Phantom Blot.
We love The Mandalorian, so that is really cool that we get some Star Wars representation. with the main villain from Mandalorian. I think that is really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what they do with his character, especially, people who've been listening for a while know I'm a Rebels fan and Clone Wars. You're a Clone Wars fan too. And the Darksaber is one of my favorite storylines throughout Star Wars. So it was exciting to see that. I can't wait to have him on the show. I wish on our podcast, but can't wait to have him on DuckTales and to hear the Phantom Blot and to see what they're going to do with him. There were some interesting images associated with this episode. We'll see exactly what's happening with this magic and this magical thief. You think the Blot is the magical thief or the magic thief?
Yes.
That's where my money's at.
And the image is really cool because we kind of see Magica's lair, which is built pretty much her face in a tree. It has like a door in her mouth, and it's kind of representative of DuckTales 87. They had Magica's face was built into a volcano, and I feel like that's a throwback to that as well. And there was also a DuckTales 87 episode called Show Me Love that had Magica and Gladstone in it. So in addition to, they had, I guess, their little romance in comic books as well.
Now, I knew that was some fan stuff. That actually happened in the comics as well?
I don't know. I'm looking it up.
Okay. One way or the other. Duck lore and all the various fandoms and fanships and everything, you never know. We'll look into that. Now, the other episode title is They Put a Moonlander on the Earth. It will air the following Monday, so we're getting weekly episode debuts. And this description says, Webby sets out to prove to a homesick Penumbra that Earth can be a lot of fun by riding Glomgold's newest gift to Duckburg, the suspicious Flint Ferris Glomwheel.
It's going to be hilarious. We know we're getting Glomgold, but Penumbra has been one of the great highlights of season 2 of DuckTales, and I love her character, and Julie Bowen does a great job with her voice. And I can't wait to see her interact with Webby, because we heard Frank say that Webby's going to have like a new role model, a female role model in the show, and that's obviously Penumbra from this episode. And it should be. I believe this is going to be a funny one as well. You know what? I've said it as well 30 times already this episode.
Those are the descriptions. That's the news that we have for DuckTales. The rest of this episode is going to be dedicated to a Goofy movie and talking with Jason Marsden about the role and about his career. And, of course, we'll talk about how he got into acting and then voice acting. He's done a lot of work, both in front of the camera and behind the microphone. And some of our favorite things, we were talking, Hocus Pocus, he voices Jinx. There's a lot of things out there that he's done that we're huge fans of. And, I mean, what kid didn't watch TGIF in the 90s? And Jason Marsden played everybody's best friend on every show.
I think the cat's name is Binks, not Jinx.
Did I say Jinx?
Yes.
Oh, no, I know it's Binks. I didn't mean to call him Jinx. Good catch. Next thing you hear on this podcast episode will be our interview with Jason Marsden. Mitch here, and like we said just a few minutes ago, we've got an exciting episode for you. I'm on the line. I've also got Pirate Steven with me, and joining us on this fine evening is Jason Marsden. Jason, how's it going?
Hey, it's Pirate Marsden to you.
Oh, we'll call you Pirate.
That's going to get a little confusing there.
That'll get a little confusing. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I couldn't resist. I'm sure it must be old, but any chance a voice actor gets to do a pirate voice is I'll jump on that.
Well, you do a better pirate voice than I've ever heard Pirate Steven do.
That's true. Yeah, I'm kind of lazy with it.
Steven, let's hear your lazy pirate voice.
Arr, let's get some rum.
Oh, he might still have it.
Not bad. You got it.
Well, Jason, we were excited to be able to connect with you and have you on the show. I know you're over in Nashville It's not far from me, and I always love speaking with another Tennessean, even if you're relocated, right? You're not from Tennessee.
No, originally Rhode Island, and I lived in Pittsburgh for a couple of years, and then Los Angeles from about 87 to 2013, and that's when I moved to Nashville.
Can I ask what drew you to Nashville?
You know, a woman drew me to Nashville. I met a gal in Studio City, California, and she was from here, and I ended up visiting her family more than mine over the holidays, and I just fell in love with Tennessee. I thought I was going to live and die in Los Angeles because my industry's there, my friends there, but there's something about, I mean, you know, I felt like I belonged here in a way, if that makes sense.
It does. We have a lot of people in Tennessee. It's a long-standing joke. And Pirate will think this is funny because he's in Florida. It's a long-standing joke that people come down from New England to Florida. They decide they're going to move to Florida, and they realize just how miserable the weather is, and then they come back halfway back up and stay in Tennessee.
Is that how it works?
That's how it works. but you didn't make that mistake. You just went straight for perfection.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, being born in Rhode Island, I was used to. Like, we had severe weather in Rhode Island. We had like really, really humid summers. We had like severe winters, and our people, Rhode Islanders, they're kind of like ball busters. They're kind of friendly, and I felt like that was a little bit here. It felt nostalgic. It felt familiar. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee doesn't have the same winters. Although I will say, when I would first visit, I think it was 2003, 2002. Was like the last big snowstorm, and I thought, oh wow, does this happen all the time? How cool! I haven't seen snow in forever, but it was obviously less and less as the years go on.
Yeah, we just have that drastic weather change.
Yes.
So, do you ever make it over to like the East Tennessee, the Smoky Mountains?
Not as often as I want to, my man. I love it up there. I love the mountains. When I lived in California, I would go up to Big Bear and Arrowhead and Mammoth all the time. I just love the clean air and the trees. I'm definitely more of a mountain guy than a beach guy. And I've been up to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge a few times, but not as often as I would like.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the country. That's my stomping grounds. I love to get up there and get on a trail and just be able to disconnect. And that's one of my favorite things to do. And we've got plenty of trails. So
definitely. And I'm not even like a camping guy. It's not that I'm so city that it's beneath me. I'm not used to it. So my first thought of, being in Tennessee, we're surrounded by lakes and camping. When it's a beautiful day out, my LA brain is like, man, let's go to the movies. That's a beautiful day to go to a movie theater. I never think about like getting a kayak and going to like Percy Priest or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it. I'm retraining my brain.
There you go. There's some beautiful areas out there.
Yes, there is. I took my son and girlfriend to Ruby Falls in Chattanooga, and then we stopped at Foster Falls on the way back. Took a dip and saw the beauty around us. It's pretty groovy. And I killed the conversation talking about waterfalls. Sorry.
No.
I was something more entertaining.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. No, I'm learning about Tennessee.
Hey, nice. I've been trying to get you to come up here and visit.
I know about Dollywood, and
you got to come to Dollywood.
Check out Dollywood. Absolutely.
We have actual coasters now.
You do. You got some pretty sick coasters.
Yeah. Now Pirate's in Orlando, so he's got all that Disney stuff.
I love me some Orlando too, man. If it weren't for this pandemic business, I would be getting ready to go to a Food and Wine Fest at Epcot.
Oh yeah,
man,
that's my jam.
Yeah, we were planning on going in May, and not planning anymore. Not right now.
Right.
No, things are crazy.
Pirate, are you a cast member, or have you ever been?
Yeah, that's where the pirate name came from. I actually worked at Pirates of the Caribbean for a little bit.
I dig it.
The Haunted Mansion, and
nice.
Now I got a big boy job here.
Right on.
Yeah, and actually I went on Monday. I went to the Magic Kingdom, and Mitch will make fun of me, but actually my my wife was working. My kids had virtual school, so I went by myself, and it was a great time. I was taking pictures of the Dole Whips and sending it to my wife and kids, and all the fun I had. I got to do all the rides and everything I wanted to do in like half a day. So it was great.
There was a point in my life I would go to Disney World twice a year if I could, and I would go by myself sometimes because I worked on the show called Step by Step, and we did an episode in Disney World. We spent like a week, 2 weeks in Disney World, and I tell you, it was like being adopted by a rich uncle. It's like you get Warner Brothers flew us down there. Each one of us got a guest relations guide who picked us up at the hotel. We didn't have to pay for any food. We could go to the parks. We have to wait in line. We had a parade for us. We're working in the parks. It was a dream come true. And as a result of that, I made so many friends in cast members and guest relations. I made friends with a buddy of mine who was working at Disney Feature Animation when it was there. Because it turns out he was from Rhode Island. His name's Lon Smart. And now he's an Imagineer, well, a furloughed Imagineer for the moment over the parks. But I love going down to WDW.
Yeah, I remember those episodes, and I think that show's on Hulu. And I shared it with my kids because they got into, when Netflix started bringing some of those shows back and everything. They got into that, and I was like, well, you got to watch the old show. You got to watch the show from before now. And so we found that, and I was like, oh, look, there's Step by Step, and there's Family Matters, and Boy Meets World, and you're on like half of those shows.
I did the rounds.
Yeah.
And then the TGIF rounds.
Yeah. And, but we watched those, and it reminded me, I hadn't thought about it. As a kid, I had one trip to Walt Disney World, and it wasn't so great. I remember those shows. So my exposure to Walt Disney World first started with those shows and watching you all enjoy Walt Disney World. Of course, when I had kids, we made it a point that we decided we were going to make that trip, and it's become one of our favorite places to be. We've gone 3 times in the last 5 years or so.
Nice. Usually I squeeze Uncle Disney for passes because, every chance you get to do that, I try. But I was gonna spring for a season pass because it's only like less than an hour flight from here. Go down. I can stay with friends in Winter Garden, and take little day trips and whatnot. It's my fun little escape.
I look forward to the day when my kids are old enough that my wife does not feel bad about leaving them behind, and we get to go by ourselves.
I have a funny story for you. I went one time. I was by myself, and my buddy Lon had arranged for me to see the Hocus Pocus show in Magic Kingdom because I voiced Binks the cat in the movie, and they got a nice little spot for me out front, and I watched the show, and then they invited me to go backstage to meet the cast, and all the villains. I got my picture taken with all the villains, and everyone was still in character, and they overheard me. I think I said something like, "Man, I feel so bad because I'm here without my son." And the wicked stepmother comes over to me and says, "Did you say that you came here without your son?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Good parenting."
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. I love that they brought that show back. My kids are a little sensitive, so they don't. I've tried Hocus Pocus on them, and we didn't get very far. My wife and I, we enjoy it. We have watched it by ourselves.
It's intense. It can be intense for little kids. It's about witches eating children. The first thing they see is a little girl their age getting killed.
Well, and that was it. It was like, oh, this was a great movie when I was a kid. I love this. Let's watch it. We all sit down. We've got our popcorn, and it starts. And within a few minutes, we're like, yeah, we're not going to be able to do this because the kids are screaming and run into their bedroom. Like, who let me watch this as a kid?
Daddy, how old's Emily?
Right. But yeah, we were there. We made a trip for Mickey's Not So Scary and got to see part of the show. It rained, so we didn't get to see the whole thing, but got to see part of it. And it was really cool. And it gave me another opportunity to say, hey, y'all want to try to watch that movie again? And they said no. But
all right, that's fine.
One of these days, when they're grown and have their own kids, I'll get to watch it with them.
I mean,
you know,
it's an instant Halloween classic. I mean, that and
Yes.
Nightmare Before Christmas, you really can't go the holiday season without watching it.
It's crazy, man. I like the people are watching that the Hocus Pocus like you or I would watch A Christmas Story or It's a Wonderful Life every Christmas. It's trippy for a movie that came out in July of '94.
Did it really?
Yes, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, didn't do well, but it did. But apparently did well enough for the folks who love the Halloween so much. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those movies that just it's got a lot of staying power for whatever reason. I mean, it's so enjoyable, and it becomes like, I feel like the characters are iconic for the holidays, and I hope Disney really leans into that and continues to use them. I was surprised with the stage show, because I remember, at one point the movie started showing up on the cheaper bins at your Walmarts and Targets and stuff, and then it was like right after that, and that may have been some of the driving force people remembered it, like, oh, I love this, and it kind of had this resurgence.
Yeah.
But hopefully Disney really utilizes that. They have so far.
And you did the voice for Binks the cat, but also for the live action Thackeray Binks, right?
Yes, Sean Murray. Yeah. I had to dub him as well. Do y'all know? Y'all want to hear that story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
We were talking about it before you came on.
So what's funny is that I had actually I had read for Max, played by Omri Katz. And Omri and I worked together on a show in the early '90s called Erie, Indiana. So I knew who he was. When I found he booked it, I was working next door on the Disney lot, and so I would just go on the set and hang out and watch him and check it out. So I was on the set of Hocus Pocus well before I even thought I could ever work on it. And after they had completed filming. Movies cost lots of money, lots of voices, or lots of people are putting their opinion in there. And Sean, who did a great job, he was using his own voice. And Sean is very kind of like Valley kind of sound. And from what I understand, the thought was Thackeray is supposed to be, 300 years old from old colonial New England. He should have an old world sort of sound. I don't know if they asked Sean to attempt a sound and it didn't work out, but they put out a casting call for it. I read for it and I booked it, and it's just cheaper to put me behind a mic than to put me in the outfit and set up cameras and get a crew and stuff. So not only did I have to loop Binks, who's already like 85% animated by that time, to Sean's performance, but I had to loop the Binks and Sean as well. In fact, in the beginning, when Sean is trying to save his sister and he goes through the moat and he's climbing through the window and he's all wet and there's this close-up of his face, you can see this bead of water going in and out of his nostril as he's breathing. That's my breathing. I had to replace his breathing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how meticulous they are.
And you did it great, because you really can't even tell that.
I never knew.
A lot of people are shocked. Yeah, it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
Now, did Sean know before he saw the movie that that's not my voice?
I'm sure they told him beforehand. I hope they told him beforehand. I've known Sean since we were kids, and I'm pretty sure there's no love lost there. It's just one of the things that happens in this crazy biz.
Yeah, well, your voice for the character is very iconic. When Pirate first mentioned it to me, I was like, no, I didn't realize that, but I never really thought about it, because that's not him doing the live action part. You did the cat's voice, and then I haven't got to rewatch it since he told me, but I definitely going to be listening for it. But it never dawned on me.
Yeah, right on. Good. I think that was the point. It's a fluid thing.
We were looking at IMDb and just kind of looking at all the various things that you've done, and man, you were busy in the '90s, and I don't think you've slowed down much. But you were just about everywhere. I didn't realize you had done Disney Adventures of the Gummy Bears. Yeah,
that was my first ever cartoon. I was 12, and I played Kevin, who was friends with the Gummy Bears, and the reason I booked that is because the first kid who was voicing Kevin went through puberty and didn't sound like a kid anymore, so they brought me in to do it.
And nobody really knew at that time, with Disney first just getting into television. I mean, that was their first time getting into television animation. I mean, who knew what all it would become in the future, and then now with their own channel and the animation department putting out some really stellar stuff. But it's really cool that you're part of that legacy of that very first show.
Man, it was a blast. I mean, I've only been in the industry like a year, and I was familiar with voice actors. Like I knew, I grew up watching cartoons, and I knew who Lorenzo Music was because I was a big Garfield fan, and June Foray, come on. I mean, heard her in everything, and these are the people that I'm working with, and then Paul Winchell, who's Tigger, and Zummy Gummy, the grandfather wizard in the show. He didn't record with us. I think he was just so busy, but he came in after the fact. I got to meet him and listen to him do his thing, and I was over the moon. It was crazy. And then like 2 doors down, they're recording DuckTales, which I was also like a huge fan of, as I'm sure you guys are, hence the name of the podcast. But yeah, it was a trip, and I met a very a new guy who was just starting out named Rob Paulson. He was doing a DuckTales down the row, and Corey Burton, who was just kind of getting started. It was a tremendous. I'm so proud that I can look back and say that I was part of that.
When did you get into acting? You said you'd been doing it for about a year. What kind of drew you to it? What was your motivation? Was it cartoons? Was it film? Was there anything in particular that kind of drew you to it?
I think it was my parents. I think my parents saw the potential in a cha-ching, in a big cash cow sort of set thing.
Okay.
Good investment, getting your kid in acting. I mean, like I always wanted to get into acting. It was nothing I requested or pursued or wanted to pursue, but the idea was presented to me, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? We had moved to LA, and people would comment to my parents like, oh, your son's cute, you should get him in acting, you should talk to this person, send him to this workshop, and so they did, and people saw potential in me, and one thing led to another, and here I am.
And you've been able to do both voice acting and acting in front of the camera. Which one do you think you've enjoyed the most, or maybe which one? I don't know. Is there one that you feel like you've enjoyed the most?
See, to me, they're not. There's no difference really, besides, getting to put on a costume and makeup. It's all acting, and I love performing. Whether it's behind a microphone or on a set or on a stage. It's all tremendously enjoyable to me.
I love that. One of the things that we've really enjoyed doing this podcast is getting to speak with voice actors and actors, or like you said, everyone's an actor, and just hearing about the stories of what kind of drew them into acting and what kind of inspired them, and then hearing them talk about the differences between on stage and behind the microphone, and that deep down it's all just acting, and that's what they really enjoy about doing it. So I feel like that's something we've heard quite a bit.
Yeah, man, 1,000%. If you guys want to talk about Goofy movie stuff, I mean, I can definitely say Bill Farmer, my dad, Goofy. I mean, one of the big successes of that movie is the fact that he is so good in it. Like and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I mean, they put him through the ringer in that movie because, Goofy is not a dramatic character, and not that they try to make him dramatic, but they gave him some real life problems, being a dad, trying to connect with his son. And Bill had no problem doing it. I mean, like he knocked it out of the park, and it wasn't a challenge for him at all. The challenge was just the voice quality. Did they want to be Goofy, or do they want Bill to use his own voice, which they did a couple of times, just did a couple of days of him just doing his own sort of like Texas sort of sound. But it's because Bill Farmer is a gifted actor is what sold all that. So when people come up to me and if I meet them at a convention, they come up and they'll do a Goofy impression, or they'll do like a Homer Simpson impression. They're like, yeah, my buddies at work say I should get into voice acting. I'm like, that's great. You do a great impression, but can you perform? Can you perform with that voice? Because that's underneath all that, that's what it's all about. It's no point in doing a dozen wacky voices. Can you deliver a performance at the drop of a hat when it's required from you by producers and directors, you know?
Yeah. And I think that is really one of the draws to that movie, is the depth that Goofy, like you said, everything that he goes through in that movie. There is this huge emotional depth added to the character that before was always about the gag. I mean, he was just a character that was there for the gag. Goofy was the one falling, with the scream and the one, always being hit by things and playing sports and hooking up a TV to disastrous, disastrous scenarios. But this movie really kind of changed that. And even looking back on Goof Troop, which we were huge fans of during the Disney afternoon, even looking back on that show, still very much the same, Goofy. This movie was a real turning point kind of for the character. And it is that relationship with his son. It's that making him, a human. And giving him that connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I loved when I first saw the film and I was younger. I related to Max a lot. It kind of like when I watched The Simpsons, I thought the show was about Bart Simpson. And then as I grow up, I'm thinking it's more Homer Simpson and Goofy as I'm a dad myself. So it's cool watching the movie as a kid and then as a father.
Yes, I've had a lot of people say that. I watched it when I was younger, and I always felt for Max. It's like, man, he just wanted to go see Powerline, and then I got older and I had kids. I'm like, oh, he just wants to go on a fishing trip with his son.
Yeah. It's got layers. It's a great movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. For me, I was I have a little brother who's about 10 years younger than I am, and I don't remember. I've gone back and forth on this. I don't remember seeing a Goofy movie in theaters, but I know we had the VHS, and he and I, about 10 years difference, used to sit and watch that movie all the time. We watched that VHS tape. I would love to know. I wish we had it, to be honest with you, because it's one of those few really good memories that I have with me and my brother. Because 10 years, I moved out of the house and he was still a little kid. So we only have a few connections, and that's one of them that we still to this day talk about. As a matter of fact, when he hears that I spoke with you, he's going to be so jealous. It's amazing. I can't wait to rub it in his face.
I love that. I have a lot of people that come up to me who say, I had a tumultuous relationship with my father, or I didn't get along with my parents, but we bonded over a Goofy movie. Like, we could sit together and watch this, and we reconnected because of this movie. And that just tickles me to no end. I love it.
Yeah, and it was really fun once I had kids, my own kids, and we're watching various things. You start changing your habits a little bit, right? Because you can't watch the suspenseful cop show when the kids are up. You got to turn something else on. And you watch a lot of the stuff that's out, and then it starts getting you nostalgic for the things that you grew up on. And that's kind of what happened with me, is I was like, I wonder if these shows are still available somehow, if I could get them on DVD or that movie. And I remember when I first showed my kids a Goofy movie, they loved it from the very beginning. And it's one of those movies that we can turn on anytime and watch and enjoy together as a family. And I mean, I know you're not on the soundtrack, but we play that soundtrack all the time. I turn it on right now and my kids break out into it.
It's a great soundtrack. I remember my girlfriend at the time didn't love the movie, but she's like, but I like the soundtrack.
That's funny. I've got to tell you a story from one time when I was in Nashville.
Yes.
One of the things that we do when we're in Nashville, we do not have a Lego store in our area, and you do at Opry Mills. And
That's
so
right.
we frequent that store when we're in Nashville. We were there when they're, what are they called? Brickheads?
Yes.
And there was a Goofy and Pluto set that came out, and Donald. And so we were there and they had them, and the kids were like, oh, we've got to have these. I was like, we don't do these. And they were like, but we got to have them. I was like, all right, we'll get them. And so I'm at the register and I'm paying for it. And the young man that's there at the register, he's probably about my younger brother's age. He's ringing me up and he's like, oh, Goofy. He's one of my favorite characters. He goes, I think Max Goof is my favorite character, though. I was like, oh, yeah, you like a Goofy movie or Goof Troop? He said, oh, Goofy movie was my favorite movie growing up. And he was like, listen, he goes, I got to tell you the story. He goes, do you know Jason Marsden lives in Nashville? And I was like, yeah, actually I did. And he said he was at an event. It was a concert or something with his girlfriend. And that he realized he was a couple of rows behind you. Uh-huh. And it just like, he was like, do you know who that is? That's Jason Marsden. And so he's telling his girlfriend, that's Jason Marsden. And I don't know if there was an intermission. I don't know what kind of show it was, but at some point he had an opportunity and she was like, go talk to him. He's like, I can't. And so she walked up to you and introduced herself and said, my boyfriend's back there and he wants to talk to you, but can't. And you came up and talked. So he was telling me this story at the Lego store.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember. Yeah. It was at, the Grand Ole Opry. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so he was telling me about it. He was just like, he's one of my favorite characters, my favorite actor. And of course he said that you allowed him to get a picture and you talked with him, but he said he stood there for a while and had a conversation with you, and it just like made his year. But I mean, I think it's great that this movie has that impact on. I mean, like my brother at the time, 95, right? Wasn't that when the movie came out?
Yes.
I mean, he was young, but for him, he grew up watching this movie all the time. And for this guy, it must have been the same way, but it was a really cool story. He was like, Max Goof's my favorite character.
I love it. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
With a Goofy movie, how did that come about? Because that was a character, the show had already been created. Goof Troop was, I don't know. I don't know as much about the history of Goof Troop as I do some of the other Disney afternoon shows. I know I love the show. It was one of my favorites. I've read a little bit about how it became a movie and just that, with Movie Tunes, they wanted to branch out and they wanted a project, and this one just seemed right with the characters and everything. And so they decided to go a little older, which was, I think, was a great move for the movie to kind of distance itself from this, I guess we call it the source show. And so they decided that Max needed to be a little bit older. And how did that come about? Was it something you found out about that you went for, or someone contacted you since you were already connected?
Yeah, it was an audition just like any other day. I got a call from my agent saying this is happening and they want you to come in and read. And I was familiar with Goof Troop, of course. I knew that the amazing late great Dana Hill was Max, and the way it was explained to me, it's not like I was replacing her. They just wanted to they age him up a bit and have maybe a natural male sound instead of a female actor doing a male sound. So I came in, I read, then they brought me back. And they brought me back again. I read for Kevin Lima, the director, and they liked me. They liked me and they gave me the part.
What a great part it is. I mean, Max, when I was at the park the other day, he's one of the characters that's on the float now. And he's definitely in the theme parks and people know who Max is. And I'm waiting for them to announce a new Goofy movie. I feel like it's time that we need to see what Max is like as an adult.
Wouldn't that be fun? Let's hope he's relaxed a bit.
Yeah. Well, in 2000 you had Extremely Goofy Movie. Mm-hmm. And then there were what were those? The Christmas movies, the Twice
Upon a Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of insight. I think that one was kind of crushing to everybody though, because there's no Roxanne.
Yeah, everyone gets very upset that he and Roxanne weren't together. They grew apart, perhaps. Maybe she was like, I don't want to be with anyone who lies to me about going to a concert, being so mean to their dad.
I thought she was smarter than that. That's one of the things that I wondered about with that movie. Just going to lie and go on a trip.
Yeah. I don't know if I can trust this guy.
Now, have you ever been at a wedding and someone comes up to you and says, hey, can you do the perfect cast?
Never. That's never happened.
It's happened to me. I don't know why it hasn't happened to you.
Have you ever done the perfect cast?
I have never done the perfect cast. I went on a Disney cruise earlier this year, and I was just going as a civilian, and quickly people put it together, and the cast members, sent a message to my stateroom and said, "Hey, meet us at this room here." And I went to the room, and they arranged for Goofy and Max. I guess Max was originally supposed to come out to the big ballroom gathering of all the characters, and Max was there, and I talked with them, and they brought them out, and they did the perfect cast right there. And afterwards, the cast members told me like they had to learn it like that afternoon. They didn't know it, to throw it together. So no, I have not done it. It's not that I don't want to. I just never had the opportunity, I suppose. No, I have to be at a wedding. Someone's got to ask me at a wedding.
Someone's going to ask you at a wedding. It might happen now. You never know. I've got a good diagram I'll send you so that you can use it to practice.
Perfect.
Yeah, my youngest daughter, like I told you, they're fans. As a matter of fact, I didn't tell them until their bedtime, which was a mistake that I was going to speak with you tonight. And they both just had this look of, I can't believe you're telling me that right now.
Well, you know what they have in common with Max?
What's that?
Both of their dads are Goofy.
Yes.
My dad's name is Goofy. But you're actually Goofy.
And you also got to be in the Lion King family as the voice of Kovu. How was that?
That was a surprise. I do believe, I can't remember if I auditioned for that or not. I don't think I did. Did I? I just remember getting a phone call from Jamie Thomason, who voice directed a Goofy movie, that they wanted me to do this role. I think, if memory serves, it was John Cusack who was doing it first. And a lot of on-camera actors have difficulty transitioning to voiceover. Even though we talked about it earlier, being the same thing, it can be very difficult. And I don't know if that was the case, but they called me, they offered me the part. Obviously I was familiar with the franchise, the soon-to-be franchise, and it was groovy, man. I got to work with Nev Campbell for a day, and it was beautifully animated. The songs are great. It's another one of those things I did to this day that people really love, especially young girls, older girls even tell me how much they love Kovu, what an impression he made on them in their young formative years.
And Kovu was trending on Twitter. Do we even know what happened there?
I don't. So my girlfriend told me that he was trending. Lion King. I think this Lion King 2 is trending. People are talking about it.
Yeah, the soundtrack is highly overrated.
Underrated?
Underrated. I'm gonna
I was like, wow.
Edit
Where'd
that part
come
out.
from?
Edit that part out, Mitch. The soundtrack is completely underrated. It's so funny, and I like they were talking about how the zebras yelling at Kovu at I think that's part of what was trending that day.
Deception, that one.
Yes, that's hilarious.
Those movies are really good. It's crazy because we look back on, at one point it was the headline, right, of all these sequel direct video movies, but a lot of them are really good. We've gotten to where with Disney Plus, we've been watching some of them, and most of them I had never seen before. The Lion King was different because my oldest daughter, we bought her The Lion King, and then we started buying up all the sequels, and she watched all of them. So it's a movie I've seen. It's one of those movies that I've seen. I can't even tell you how many times. But some of those other direct-to-video sequels, I've been really surprised watching them on Disney Plus, and I bet, especially with it trending right now, or last week or whenever it was, I bet there's a whole new audience coming to these movies.
I'm sure, especially with the success of The Lion Guard and the timeline that takes place. People are just all over the Lion King now. I can definitely say franchise.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I was surprised that you did that I didn't know about, like this was caught me off guard, and it brought back lots of memories, was the 1990 Peter Pan and the Pirates.
Yes.
I did not realize you were Peter Pan in that.
Yeah, man. Also, yes, that was the the second time I took work from Dana Hill, she was cast as Peter before me, and did 80 episodes. And then the producer's like, I don't know, we're gonna go a different direction. But yeah, I did that. It was me, Tim Curry, a very young Josh Keaton, Aaron Lohr, who did Max's singing voice, was one of the Lost Boys. That was a good time. That was a big learning experience. That was my first like really big cartoon, especially as a lead character, and learned a lot, especially about ADR, because like I said, I had to go back and loop like a bunch of episodes that were already animated. But yeah, that was a good time. Again, a beautifully produced cartoon, really close to Sir James' novel, and because they really wanted to separate it from the Disney version of Peter Pan. Had a good time.
They did a good job for sure, because like that is a distinctive Peter Pan for me. And I remember that coming on maybe afternoons, wasn't it like a weekday afternoon show? Yeah. And it was on Fox.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So is it now a Disney property?
No. I doubt it. I'm sure Disney doesn't want anything to do with it. No, it's a solely Fox property. It's, I mean, they even changed like the hand that Hook's hand is on, the left from left to right, to make sure there was no issue of lawsuit. But yeah, man, and I remember, because there were so many episodes, they farmed out the animation to so many different places. A lot of weekday animation was done in like overseas in Thailand, Korea, and some episodes of Fox's Peter Pan, the Pirates were done in Russia, and those were my favorite episodes because they just looked like performance art. It was like bizarre, like the characters looked so different, but they were animated so fluidly. It was like going to like a film festival and seeing like an animated short film. It had such interesting quality to it. I would love to revisit those. I don't know where you can find them. But I hope those get a reissue somewhere. They're too much fun.
I would love to get my hands on those. I have searched for them before and have not found on any current media. I haven't found anything that was available. So it'd be cool to see those out there. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this podcast who have no idea what I'm talking about and are looking it up, because it was one of those that as soon as I read that you did it, it was just like instant came back to my memory of, I loved that show. And I remember trying to catch it. It was one of those shows we may have had a VCR, but we didn't record as much, so you didn't set it to record and all that. I feel like that came a little bit later. And so you had to be there to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, who can you remember the last time you had a cartoon that came out 5 days a week?
Yeah.
I remember playing the NES game that was affiliated with that show.
Yes. Yes. I played that too. I know what you're talking about.
That's good times.
Did I ever played that?
Oh, yeah.
I have a cell. A friend of mine gifted me a couple of animated cells from that. I have a couple and some production drawings, and I have the action figures, 2 of the action figures.
I remember those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool times.
Speaking of like merch, it's amazing how much a Goofy movie merch is coming out now.
Right.
When do you see that? Do you just gobble it up, or do you buy stuff like that? I know if I was a major Disney character, I'd be collecting myself.
Yes and no. Like if it's like I won't just grab it just because it's a Goofy movie. It's got to resonate with me. Like I have a couple of Max shirts, and I have like a Max Beanie Baby, and I like the hard to find stuff, and I've some art. But
did you get the Funko Pop?
I have a Funko Pop. Yes, I could not avoid the Funko Pops.
Is that like a major sign-in thing?
I bet you've signed a lot of Funko Pops.
Yeah, I've signed a lot of Funkos. Definitely. It got to the point where I had to, like, have someone talk to the person beforehand and make sure, like, am I signing this for you to resell in bulk, or is this your personal Funko? Yeah, I have one. That's the only. I have 2 Funkos. I have Max, and I have Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, nice.
That's it. Otherwise, I would be that guy to like just keep collecting them, but I can't.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
The only one that I heard that's coming out that I might jump on is Dee Schneider from Twisted Sister. I might have to have that one too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I've limited myself for as long as Pirate and I have known each other. I've said I would not collect Pops until they do a television show that I've always been a fan of. And I guess they're never going to do it until they started doing Disney Afternoon Pops. I was like, okay, I do Disney Afternoon Pops, but that's it. So that's been my collection. And that Max Goof, that was a hard one to get a hold of for me with the because it was GameStop, that GameStop box.
Yep.
I still didn't get the chase on that one.
You still didn't get the chase?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one with the skateboard.
Yeah. I had a couple of those. There's a toy company. Do you know Tall Man Toys?
I do know Tall Man. Yeah.
He hooks me up with Pops when they come in. So he's the guy to talk to.
Were you going to come to Fanboy this year? Before that got canceled?
I don't know if I was officially going to do it. I know Dave, the guy who runs it, and he was going to let me come down. I had such a good time last time I was there. I think I had a conflicting con.
Okay.
This year, but I would jump to come down. I go, come on, it's like a 3-hour drive for me.
Yeah,
it's a good time. They put on a good show.
Oh man, last year they expanded to a second building.
Really?
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It was the first. I hadn't been able to make it. Actually, the year you were here, I was supposed to make it, and I had on my calendar on the wrong date.
Oh no!
Yeah,
it's a bummer. I had such a good time.
It's a great time. It really is. I love that local con. But yeah, they were going to have quite a few voice actors and Disney Afternoon alumni at that one. So,
nice.
Well, I was really looking forward to it. Jim Cummings was coming into town for the first time, and I don't know if I ever knew of him being in town. So, it was going to be a fun time. Hopefully, when everything starts to straighten up, we'll have conventions again. You like doing conventions. I think the first time I met you was at Dragon Con, which is a pretty big convention in Atlanta.
I love Dragon Con. I love it. I love all the conventions. I have such a good time. I love to travel. I love meeting the fans. I mean, I will make no. I've said this before. Like I acknowledge I have an ego. I love the attention. I love it. I have a good time wherever I go. If I wasn't an actor, I would be that nerd going to all the conventions and dressing up and stuff like it. It is I love that environment. And and Dragon Con especially, amazing good time. Yeah. I actually wasn't going to go this year. I went last year. I was going to go to Burning Man this year, but both events got postponed.
Right. Yeah. The I didn't do conventions until we started doing the podcast, and I'd been to Fanboy once before we started doing the podcast. And when I went to Dragon Con for the first time, I was just in awe. I didn't know there were that many people like me that got. I mean, I'd heard of San Diego, but I mean, on this end of the country, I'd never been to anything like that. So you're right. It's awe-inspiring.
And compared to, have you been to San Diego Comic-Con?
I have not.
Now, I've been a handful of times in San Diego. Like, to me, and a lot of people say this as well, it's so industry run. It's so produced by the movie companies, and they really force it down your throat. Don't get me wrong, it's a spectacle, and it's fun, but it feels too. I don't know if inclusive is the right word, but it feels like you have to know someone to get to that party, or you have to be this cool to get over there. Dragon Con is for everybody. And it was amazing to see, like 80,000 people pour into Atlanta, take up 4 hotels, and everyone gets along. There was no menace. Everyone's so considerate of one another. The cosplay blows your mind. I mean, I love it. I went, where did I meet you? Was it 2016 or last year?
It was last year.
Last year, okay. The first time I went 2016, and then 2017, I just went anyway. Like, I wasn't invited, but I was like, I have to go. It's a short drive.
Yeah.
Had a blast, and great merch area. I love the artist alley. I love going to. You guys are Donald Duck fans, DuckTales fans. You know who Don Rosa is, right?
Yes.
Yes. Doesn't he live near you? No, he lives in Kentucky.
Yeah, he's in Kentucky. It's not far.
That was my fanboy. experience because I love those DuckTales comic books, and I have so many of them. And his art is my favorite, and his stories are my favorite. And I met him, and he's this crotchety dude, and you can't talk about DuckTales with him. He puts you in your place. But I won him over. I was like, man, you wrote this issue where the Beagle Boys steal this inertia ray, and dude, you taught me about inertia and all this stuff, and he loved it. He gave me all these drawings. I have Don Rosa art all over my house.
That's awesome.
That's thanks to Dragon Con.
Dragon Con was the first time I got to meet him as well. So I didn't know the comic side of things until the podcast. Because once we started doing the podcast, everybody was like, the comics. And we were like, we don't know these. So we got into them, and we started with Rosa instead of Barks, and fell in love with his work. Like I went last year, I collected individual issues of the Life and Times. So I have a 13 issue set of the Life and Times. And then I've also Fantagraphics. I don't know if you've seen it. They've put out some amazing collections of both Don Rosa's work. Now they're his, like this. If you ever get him talking about it, he will talk about it. He got to pick every color. He got to pick every correction he wanted. They let him go through and change it to where it was his perfect work. And that's what he says it is. Wow. It is the best version of his work to ever be released.
Did you see that book of him, his autobiography, that big coffee table book that someone made for him? Yeah. Isn't that outstanding?
Yes. So I got... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I got to meet him for the first time there. I've met him twice. And the first time I was a new fan, and he ate me alive. And it was amazing. I loved it. The second time I walked up, I was like, all right, I'm a real fan now. I can sit down and talk with you. And I had a good time. Of course, I had a fresh copy of the complete Life and Times that Fantagraphics put out. And he said he'd only got to look at it a few times before. So he's like, do you mind if I flip through it? I said, it would be an honor to sit here and let you flip through this book and point out stuff. So I got to sit with him for a while, and it was a lot of fun.
He loves to talk. If obviously if it's on, his intellectual level, but he'll tell you whatever. He's very candid, and his stories are fantastic. And then I love the chilies that he gives out to people as well, that he grows in his yard. I remember seeing this one guy pick one up and just take a bite out of it. And Don warned him. He's like, are you used to chilies? The guy's nodding all cocky. And then instantly you see like sweat burst out of his forehead. And I watched the dude excuse himself, walk away, sprint away, run away to the nearest water fountain or something.
Yeah, there was a dad that stopped and was looking at the art, talking with him for a minute, and his kid put his hand in the chilies and picked one up and looked at it and put it back. And Don was like, no, take it. I don't care if you throw it away. Don't put it back in there. He's like, you don't just pick up food. This is food. You realize it's food?
Good on him.
Yeah, it was great. But
those comics, that's what all those stories are what fueled the TV show.
Yes.
But he won't. He doesn't want the credit. He doesn't want to.
I know.
Yeah, and I've talked with him about the sign. I mean, it's a fun story because I saw it happen while I was there talking with him, where someone would come up with something DuckTales, and he was like, "I didn't work on that. I didn't." He's like, "It would be wrong for me to put my name on it. That's not my work." I was like, "I get it," and he gets tired of, it getting brought up all the time. So
it's a shame. I wish he knew how much he was revered. But maybe there was a payday that didn't happen or something. But
yeah.
But I guess the accolades wasn't enough for him.
Right. Yeah. But he does. He's a lot of fun at conventions.
Comics. Yes. Definitely.
I think it's fun that you got a chance to meet him there at Dragon Con. I love Dragon Con. I can't wait to go back. I'm so bummed that it's not happening next month.
Same. I know it would have been in just a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've still got time off from work on my calendar.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Are you are there any, I think there's some online, there's some virtual things that are happening.
Yeah, they have. I haven't looked at it yet to see exactly what's going to take place. But I know that their Twitter account, they changed it to make sure everybody knew it was going to be virtual. So it's about time to start looking into what's going to be happening, though. You're right. Speaking of virtual and online, you've got some online stuff going on right now.
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. I during these COVID times, I thought it'd be a perfect idea to take my stage show to television and web. I started a show called the Mars Variety Show. Since I moved to Nashville, we're surrounded by amazing, talented musicians, and I always felt like I go to venues and I'd see these cats just like pouring their guts out on stage for like 6 people. I'm like, come on, are you serious? Like I living in LA, I've seen bands, but it was mostly like showboating. Like I feel like the artists here are really giving you something, and I decided to use my platform to give them a bigger showcase to show off their talents. I'd always been a fan of like old timey, like classic variety shows like Laugh-In, Hee Haw, Dean Martin Show. So I'm inspired by those shows. I started something called the Mars Variety Show, which you can find on YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and search Mars Variety Show or Mars Presents. And I did 1 season already. I did 6-episode season, and I call it a relentless good time. There's music, there's comedy, there's spoken word, there's art, there's sketch comedy, and I host it. And it's all independent talent, independent musicians, local Nashville independent comedians, local artists, and not just here, but everywhere, and people who are talented who deserve to be recognized. So that's my passion project, my love letter to Nashville and the indie community, and I'm already working on a 2nd season.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Any idea when that'll be out?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm like nervous saying it, but it's good to have a deadline. September 21st will be episode 1 of 6 of the next of season 2.
Well, I will be sure to include a link to the YouTube page.
Please do.
Or the channel. Let me get it right.
Yes.
The YouTube channel.
YouTube.com/Mars Presents.
Awesome. So everybody can go there and check that out.
Yes.
I was telling you earlier, I checked out the
things.
Yeah, click the bell, do all that stuff.
Yes.
But it's a lot of fun. It's a type of show that you don't see as much. You don't see as often anymore. My Tennessee's coming out. You don't see as often anymore. But showcasing talent, it's a cool thing that you're wanting to do. And then of course you're talented yourself. So it's a good mixture. It's a fun show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's keeping me sane as well, staying sane by staying productive.
Well, that's what we've got to do. We've got to find ways to keep ourselves busy. This podcast is that for me. I mean, if it wasn't for working on this and trying to do those things, and then of course spending time with family and all of that, is trying to keep ourselves not dwelling on the scarier aspects of life right now, but focusing on the things that we enjoy and the people that we love.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that we're negating what's going on. That's still important. I still try to give my attention to that when possible. But for those who are listening, who might be in despair, by what's going on, allow yourself that, but also make sure that you fill your own cup as well, so you can keep fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. That's one of the things we said when we came back to our podcast after a little bit of a break, and we were like, listen, there's so many things in the world that we could be talking about right now, and we could have conversations about what we're going through, but sometimes people need a release. Some people just need to laugh, and they need to think about something else for a little while, and that's healthy too. So that's kind of our goal in still doing the podcast during these troubling times. But we're trying to keep going and enjoy our time with one another.
Good on you. Well, I've enjoyed my time with you guys. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, it's been a blast. Again, we can't thank you enough for joining us. I know, and I completely forgot. We've got a Discord, and I normally tell them when we get started recording who was the guest, because we don't say beforehand, and I didn't. So I've not even checked to see if they've asked. But they'll be excited. Surprise! Because you've been a requested guest on the show before. We've had people say that.
Right on.
Have you on, so they'll be excited to hear.
I appreciate that. Well, when I get the second season up and running, if it's not too soon, if you want to do it again, I'm happy to do it again in October. We can talk some more.
Absolutely, we'll work something out.
Awesome.
All right, man. Well,
Pirate, you there? You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was looking at your IMDb and I was going to ask you about Baywatch.
What do you want to know about Baywatch?
that was first season, wasn't it?
I can't remember what season it was.
It was early.
But I played a bully. It was fun. I remember. So in the scene, I get into a fight with this kid at an arcade, and then we get put into a police car by a couple of police officers, and the actors were real police. They just called them to come on over and do this. And I remember as a female police officer, I remember her grabbing my arm so hard, and I'm like, "Hi, it's just to pretend. You don't have to do it so hard." And she laughed at me like I was speaking German, like it was like, just did not get it. That's all I remember from that situation. And I remember going, like, the whole show, like, I think, takes place on one beach. We shot in like 3 different beaches in LA at the time.
I thought you were going to bring out a story where you were drowning and CJ Parker had to rescue you and bring you back to life.
No, which one was CJ Parker? Was that Nicole?
That's Pamela.
Yeah, no, he was on before her.
Yeah, I was pre-Pamela. It was Nicole Eggert. Was it Nicole Eggert?
Yeah.
No, she was on after me as well.
So my dad was a huge fan of Baywatch. I've seen a lot of episodes.
Oh my gosh.
You got to work with the Hoff. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I didn't get to work with. I didn't have any scenes with him, but I got to see him, and he was Michael Knight to me.
Nice.
Me too. I grew up watching Knight Rider. That was my thing.
Which is why I could never talk to Bill Daniels on the Boy Meets World set. I was too intimidated because he was Kit. He was Kit the car.
Yeah, I remember when I realized that as a kid, that it was the same, that it was the voice of Kit. I was just mesmerized. I can't imagine, getting to meet him. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So you've...
Mr. Matthews, Michael. Mr. Matthews, Michael. Mr. Matthews.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good impression.
Michael. Oh my God! How old are you guys? Do you mind if I ask?
I have to do the math.
I'm 39.
39.
I'm the younger one. I'm 38.
38. Okay, I'm 45. I'm trying to. I don't know if do you guys watch Knight Rider back in the day?
I did. Man, I've watched every episode of Knight Rider.
What was the one later in the season? You remember when Kit? Something happened, got dropped into a vat of acid, and then he gets amnesia, and he has to retrain himself, and he's like all white. He's like a white car, and he has to relearn himself. It's like a total soap opera thing. Like he gets his head, knocks his head, gets amnesia, and he has to relearn being Kit. Do you remember that one?
I remember parts of that, but I don't remember him being white. But it has been a long time. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen some of those episodes.
Yeah, he had crashed into acid, so his paint job was all messed up. He had to be completely reconstructed, and during the training course and stuff, he had a fresh body on, and the body was not painted yet, so he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean the molecular bonded shell?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
But yeah, I remember parts of that, but I don't remember that. The one that has always stuck out to me was the Goliath episodes.
Goliath, yeah, the big truck. Right?
Yeah,
Was that a big truck? Yeah.
It was. And then you had David Hasselhoff doing the dual roles where he plays the actual son of the guy who created Knight Industries.
And it was just a mustache.
It was just a mustache.
Off of the mustache.
Yeah. And then, of course, the later seasons where they added the foils that would come out and stuff. RC. The guy's name was RC that designed all the upgrades.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That was a great show. I've tried to rewatch it, and it's one of those shows where I was like, you know what? My memories are better.
Yes, exactly. I've done that as well.
I'm going to hold on to those memories, but I didn't get too far into rewatching it.
Indeed. Oh man, I'm sorry. I hope your listeners don't mind that side tangent.
No, they should go look up Knight Rider and check it out. I'm sure they've seen references on Was it? Does Family Guy ever referenced Knight Rider?
I'm
It seems
sure
like
they have.
something
I'm
they
sure
would.
they have. I'm sure they have.
In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, they had Hasselhoff and Chris Pratt. Star-Lord was talking about him as the Knight Rider.
Yeah. All right, Duck fans, that's it for this interview. We had an amazing time speaking with Jason Marsden. It was so much fun, and glad that we're able to share it with you. I just want to take a moment and apologize that it's taken me so long to get this episode out to you. Just trying to deal with all the craziness that is our lives right now, as well as virtual learning with my children and trying to get work done. Just not had a lot of free time. But very glad to have this episode edited and out for you to listen to. Edited. Is that even a word? Glad that I got this episode done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will reach out to Jason and check out his YouTube channel, Mars Presents, the Mars Variety Show. It's a lot of fun, and support what he's doing as he is supporting independent artists from all over. Check us out online at ducktalks.com. Don't forget to follow us over on Twitter, maybe even Instagram. Try to get some stuff out there. We've not done a lot of pictures lately, but we'll get some stuff out there soon. We're getting closer and closer. I know it's been a while since we recorded this, but we're just literally days away from new episodes of DuckTales. We're looking forward to that. We've got a couple of other really special things going on that we're looking forward to doing on the podcast between now and then. So if you haven't, please subscribe to the podcast or follow us over on YouTube or Twitter so that you get notifications when new episodes are out. And for those of you who enjoy listening over on YouTube, we have our most recent episodes are up, so you can check those out. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. Until next time, don't forget to stay glum golden. And if you can dream it, you can do it. Talk to y'all later. Always odd when I have to do everybody's outro.